Yeah.
Very well then. Welcome to the panel discussion. It is my great pleasure to be sitting among so many distinguished speakers from these 2 days. And I would like to welcome you all here at the panel discussion. And since we have quite a few questions, and I hope there will be more coming up, I will start. And let me see. So first is from Nicole, who is asking, how about women being rejected at job interviews just for the fact that they are in their 30s and there's a bigger chance that they will be leaving their job due to maternity? So, in fact, I'm not quite sure. Can you comment on, maybe very briefly, on this situation?
Do we need mic or no?
Maybe if you can speak up.
I will speak up. I'm not from the field of medicine, but there has been a formal change done recently that job interviews are done by a committee that needs to be, that the composition of the committee needs to be not really gender equal, but there needs to be a representation of various segments of the organization, including students. Mm-hmm. So this is something I believe may at least change decisions like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so not responding to the being in the 30s in the medical profession, but
yeah, I never these interviews now are like the chief doctor, a man, and this was who may be accepted, admitted. So yes, this is true. The women about 30s who are not having children yet have a worse chance, because the first question is when you plan to have a baby. If the lady says, I don't plan it in the next few years, they say, oh, you lie, of course we know that. You can just come and in 1 year you'll get pregnant. This is just a normal practice.
And I believe it's illegal.
Yeah, it's definitely illegal. Thank you.
And I think
oh my God, I think that's so clear that it is so illegal. It's like, you know, the example for education, what can be illegal? And this is like perfect example, because a potential employer can ask just questions about I don't know, about your education, about your
what skills?
Yeah, sure, about your skills, about your internships, and information really linked to the job you are applying to. Because, you know, questions like, do you want children? How many children do you want? Who will take care of the children if there is illness or something? Or do you protect yourself not having children? Even this happens really, it's crazy, but yeah. It's like, it shouldn't be, and you don't have to answer that. And you can point out that it's illegal.
Yeah, Martin, just one more brief comment on that. So a few months ago, in fact, we were discussing a grant proposal in a larger team, and it was about the time when I just got married. So we were discussing it with this professor, and he said, and it was a grant proposal for 4 years, and like, okay, and how about you having babies? Like, who's going to do the work? And like, excuse me? And I was so surprised. I'm like, well, you know, I used my favorite sentence. Well, you know, we'll see. God given, I am this like nice Slovak Catholic girl, so I can always use this as an excuse. And so I was like, well, I'm going for an internship, etc. But this question was put out completely bluntly, like, okay, are you going to have kids and who's going to do the work? Thank you. But Martin.
It was the colleague on left first.
Oh, I just want to say that it's clear that we are women and that this question come. But from my personal experience is that it's good that you awake this question and that you know that you can answer, but you don't have to answer. And if you want to answer, so just if you know exactly, it's fine to be open, but you don't have to be so much open. So anyway, it comes, even if it's illegal, but it's natural, so it has to come.
I think we can smoothly move to the question, how do we provide equal opportunities for men and women while completely disregarding the fact that it's women who bear children, but without changing the system to accommodate children in childcare, like providing childcare at the workplace, providing support during pregnancy. Can anyone comment on that?
I would like to comment to the previous question. I think it's crucial to institutionalize the appointment procedure. That you have a standard questionnaire. What do you want to know from that person, which is crucial. A crucial competence for the job, and any other question is just not allowed, and that the decisions from the appointment committee should be supervised by an equal opportunity officer, and that's quite common in Germany. And the people, some of them who are in charge, they don't appreciate it, but they have to swallow it, and I think that has pushed a lot of progress towards gender equality, that you have an institutionalized, standardized procedure, and that the people who are in charge has to comment on their decisions, whom they appoint and who are not given the position.
Yes, Martin.
I like the idea of institutionalized approach, but I would also make it more, let's go deeper into, let's make it institutional in terms of hiring policy, but also in terms of, childcare, in terms of reproductive work. I think that's the main focus, and it's still seen as feminized, and that's the whole issue. So, and since we're in Czech Republic, I come from Slovenia, which is another socialist country. I think we have historical experience that, when a country decides to socialize childcare reproduction, that takes a huge load of women's shoulders. Of course, we had a problem of double shift, because women, on one hand, there was provision of childcare, but on the other hand, women had still, work more at home than women did. But now that we have this experience, I think we can also learn, okay, now that we know that there is a chance to socialize childcare, reproductive work, how do we include men? Because I think that this is something that we still have to really grasp. Is that okay? It's okay that if we take burden of women, but like men also have to take responsibility, because one of the comments is, how do we provide equal opportunities for men and women while completely disregarding the biological difference that is related to their children? Nobody is denying the biological differences, but nobody cannot tell you that, okay, woman is the one who breastfeeds, but that doesn't mean that men cannot change diapers, cook, take the child out, go and ask for a place in the kindergarten. These are all activities that men can do as well. But some parts see that, because a woman can bear a child, that naturally this translates into it. This is absurd.
I visited Iceland in 2009, and there was one idea that every baby is welcome, and it is not due to merit. It is possible when women want to marry, but it is not duty. And the family with daughters
is familiar with the situation that their daughter can have baby and it is normal. It is obvious. So it was a little cultural and mentally another approach, and maybe we can learn something from Iceland.
I would very much like that. So there is another question, if there should be quotas over 50% for women, and some political parties aim for that. So do you think, if I understand it correctly, the quota should not be just 50-50, but let's say 60-40? Perfect.
After what I heard today, especially from Dr. Sterenkova, I was thinking about it for a long time, but I must say now, yes, I am for quotas. Because it's still one generation, and I think I know it's a very difficult question, very difficult, but these people who say quotas are for nothing are mainly men who says if the girls are that good, they shouldn't need quotas. So I think I would be for quotas, not maybe for 50-50, but as you said.
Maybe I would like to say that we've been having quotas for men for the past decades and centuries, so maybe it's time to level the playing field. And maybe this could be, I think I heard it somewhere, and I'm not sure if it was here or in a different forum, that said, well, we're not introducing quotas. We are reversing the quotas that have been here for past decades in favor of men. We are just leveling the field. Any comments? Okay, so I will try one thing. Who thinks that there should be quotas over 50, that means, let's say, 55-60% for women? If you could raise your hands in the panel.
Quotas or quotas that?
Okay, let's say quotas 50.
Okay.
Quotas 50 plus.
50
plus that there should be quota, not saying you have to have equal representation, but more women than men. Okay, I hope I have replied to your question. Yes, I think we all agree on 50-50.
I haven't.
No, you haven't, so what's your opinion?
Even though I think it's definitely fair to have 50-50 representation, I know quotas work from in 3 to 7. I mean, 30% is the minimal ratio for things to start changing, and I kind of think this is the voice that should be given. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against 50-50 quota, but the ratio, I think, to give a voice is 30%. So that's how we should start.
I agree.
Okay. Maybe we can slowly continue. How do we frame non-binary persons in a quota system? Any ideas on that?
I feel challenged. No, I haven't thought about that, but maybe just the same way we started with being open about gay and lesbian politicians. I think that might be a good way to start. But I always have, yeah, it's nice to see a politician being open about their private life. But how to put it? I think that this can also very easily lead to sensationalism when it comes to portraying politicians, and they are then kicked out just because they have a non-binary identity, but then the focus is not on their actual politics when it comes to economics, when it comes to political views, when it comes to, all the other aspects. So, and we've seen in terms what happens when your identity is put before your politics into you as not in the UK with this openly alt-right gay activist, Nobles, if I'm not mistaken, who was very actively using his gay identity and promote alt-right ideology. So he was like, yeah, I'm here, I'm gay, and I'm all out for alt-right because they will protect my gay identity against these horrible immigrants that are per se homophobic.
Now, I think we're getting to like a bit too far. I think that the thing is, well, how do we frame quotas for a non-binary person? Well, it may just be that if you have a non-binary person in your workplace, like being open to them, in fact, and asking them how they feel if they want to be in a position of power, because like being a non-binary person, especially in the Czech Republic, is like a hard thing, and we might even be imposing tokenism on them, like, yeah, you be our representative, you be the one that carries that carries the flag. I mean, I think this is especially the situation where we should be very sensitive and individual and apply some individual approach. I just want to clarify, there was someone asking me what I meant by quotas for men. Well, men have been advantaged, so this is what I mean by quotas for men. I mean, if you have 11 applicants, women, and 1 applicant man, and then the guy is being accepted, well, what could be more quota than that? So this is what I had in mind. Oh my goodness. So, discrimination of women in medicine is obvious thing. Have you ever been witness to discrimination of LGBT plus people?
I must say no. I don't know.
You just mentioned tokenism, and for those who are open, who came up, then they are taken as tokens very often. So, and I consider this a discrimination.
I think that's a great point. We have lots of questions, so I will continue.
What was the answer? Sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
Sorry.
We have just discussed tokenism.
Yes.
So people who are open about their sexuality, who came out publicly, they are often taken as for the whole community, which I find discriminatory.
So Philip is asking, in Czech hospitals, you can find only minimum number of women senior doctors, imagine. In case they acquire a job as senior doctors, it's often in fields such as dermatology or pediatry, never in surgery or intensive care. I'm not sure what the question is.
Like, how should you deal with that?
Oh, how should we deal with that?
I just can just talk from surgery because that's a big point why there are no full professor or full assistant professor, not even treated as a female. And that's first, there is the increasing numbers of women, and the evolution of surgery is quite long. So I think this will take some work. And the second is that is maybe the big difference between male and female, and what most of surgeons, like male surgeons, say is that a female missed the distinctness, which is quite important in surgery. And I just would like to comment to this character. And if you maybe don't have the leaders to show you how to the distinctness treat in the operating theater, then probably it will not change. But I think it's also that it's a little bit changing, so maybe particularly in surgery, that will be strange.
All right. So I really like the question, was there a specific situation that made you realize no one is going to do anything about it, so I have to, when it comes to the issues that we talked about? And I can, in fact, if I may, I will start with myself. And I think that was a moment when I read the book by Carolina and Criado Paris, Invisible Women, and I was stuck. How is it possible that our medical students, and I didn't know it when I was a medical student, so and by multiple happy coincidences, I ended up at the Department of Ethics. And I asked the head of the department, well, I would like to give a lecture on women in medicine. I was like, yeah, sure, I think that's a great idea. And then he came up with, well, you know, since you have this lecture, maybe we could do a conference, and it could be a topic at Prague School of Bioethics. So this is my way of saying thank you, and yeah, this was the situation. Okay, if there's no one presenting the issues of women in medicine, then, I mean, even though I don't feel very much educated in the field, well, someone should. So, okay, until anyone better comes, then it will probably be me. Anyone else? No one is going to do anything about it, so I have to.
Yeah, the same in surgery. That's why we started to open the task, like women in surgery especially, as that there are missing some role models. And if you don't see, you are afraid, you have fear to stand up and maybe a little bit provoke. But you feel that maybe it's me, and but you have to have few more experience. So I think for very young, not even surgeons, but the doctors, it's difficult at the beginning. But yeah, there are many many ways how to do so. So I think you have to just feel that it's the right time for it. And I think it's difficult to say where the time is, but if you feel it, I would say do it and prove it.
I decided to do something about discrimination, at least open the, the topic, based on some discussion I had with my friend who is a young physician, and she told me what happened to her at her workplace, and I was like, it was outrageous, and I said, like, how is this possible? And she said, that's okay, I'm used to it from school. It's not something like, I'm not shocked by it like you are. I'm just saying, so you know how lucky you are when you don't have to deal with this. So I was outraged, and I was really angry, and I decided, maybe I will write an article about it so people know. And then my colleague pointed out that maybe I should ask more people, not to generalize. Maybe it's just, her case, and maybe it's just, some solo occurrence, and you need some, you need more people to tell you the same story so it has some value. So I decided to do the survey, and then I was even more outrageous, and I'm even more angry because it was crazy, and I just felt that I have to do something about it. I have to, present it, and I feel that I'm a lawyer, so I don't have to worry about, have a stain on my name when applying to some hospital or when I'm trying to pass exams on medical school. So it gives me really better position than young physicians have, because I don't care if doctors don't like me, or well, I would like them to take care of me if I'm ill, obviously, but I don't have to, you know, be aware and try to not to, I don't know, make some high management or some hospital really angry, because yeah, I don't care about it.
Okay, so I will continue. If there's a different opinion between women in medicine and women in science, if they are dealing with same or similar issues, maybe if I could ask you to comment.
Yes, of course. I think it's similar, actually. Women in science have the problem that they often have restricted terms they can work. For example, you get an appointment for 3 years, and after that you either go to the next step or you leave. And that's a problem. It's a problem with pregnancies, very much so, because women get pregnant and then the end of the term comes and they are out. This is really difficult, and I think in that case it is really worse compared with women in clinical medicine. One more remark. In Germany we have a sincere lack of physicians. This is a real problem. And so basically everybody gets hired who wants to do the job. And in that respect, I think that the clinicians have a better chance to stay in the job compared with scientists.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And I think science is not science, it's a very heterogeneous field. It depends if you're in biology, in chemistry, or in physics, and the cultures within these disciplines are varying. And I think that especially for women in physics, it's quite hard in Germany, or in chemistry, they face obstacles and ascriptions. Well, when you are in the lab and handling all these dangerous chemicals, and when you get pregnant, what should we do with your data and stuff like this? So I think you cannot say women in science. You have to ask which science, which discipline.
Yeah, I completely agree. But also there's one more point that if you really want to do top class science, you're expected to go on a postdoc, which means at least a year, maybe 3 years, that you will be somewhere away from your home country. And that's another point when you are thinking, okay, so I'm on a postdoc, where is it that I'm going? Am I taking my partner with me? How about pregnancy planning? Is there is it a country that has sufficient prenatal care? Will I have insurance there? Will I have gynecology care, etc.? Maybe Sharka can comment on that too.
Well, it just reminds me my situation a couple of years ago when I applied for a long-term mobility program with our university, and I was chosen. And I have 2 children, as you know, and there are some finances for that, for implementation. But there were no differences between how much money the certain scientists get, nevertheless whether it is a man or woman, and there were no differences between the situations like I had, because my expenses were higher in order to do that, because I had 2 children. And I asked about that because I felt that it wasn't correct. I had 2 children there with me. There was no problem to look for a school for them, but for example, travel costs and things like that, and the money allocated for implementation were same. And I asked our project center, how come it is same? I have family as a colleague man who doesn't have family, and they admitted that they didn't set it correctly, and they needed to make a change in upcoming projects. But to me, we couldn't do anything with that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So another question is if it helped, if people in high position, chief of recruitment, were required to attend some kind of seminar on discrimination in medicine like every other year. Anyone?
Can you repeat the question?
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry.
Yes.
Would it help if people in high positions, such as chief of department, etc., were required to attend some type of seminar on discrimination in medicine, like every other year? I guess something similar as Professor Villar mentioned. What do you think?
I would appreciate it very much. There are trainings for like anti-bias trainings, but I think that it, like what I mentioned before, it should be institutionalized for every new appointed professor. It should be mandatory to visit at least one of these seminars. It should be part of the culture within the faculty that we address these issues in a regular way, and not and discrimination as a huge phenomenon, and also tackling the categories within women and men, you know, because I think at this conference it's a good starting point to address women, but I think there are much more varieties within these categories, men and women. We should address that these anti-bias trainings should address also social class, the implicit rules of academia. It's much easier for people to be in the system and to get some self-confidence when their parents are academics. It's for sure. I don't know if I think maybe it's a difference between Czech Republic and Germany. We have these big discussions of first academic students and first students and their family. But also when it comes to the so-called ethnic background, are you a black person or are you a white person? And that even makes things more complicated. And I would definitely argue for some trainings concerning these issues.
I totally sign what Eva has just said, because I wanted to say, if it was presented like that, there is a compulsory seminar you need to attend every 2 years. I guess we can all imagine the reactions, another bureaucracy, another administration. But if this is an integral part to the system of leadership training, so when you are appointed the head of the department or a research group, this is simply part of your training, it is one part of the training, then it is, I guess, integral and would be accepted in a different manner. So it needs to be as a part of a bigger structural institutional change, and then hopefully this might work.
I love the idea of leadership training. If only we had something like that.
I think people in head positions know that they are discriminating, so they don't need an education in it, I think. And the revolution must come from the bottom.
Yeah, I would like to add that I don't actually agree that people always know that they are discriminating, because I think there are really many people who don't understand what discrimination is, and they think that if they have reason for something, even though the reason is actually the gender, and they not just realizing that, they think that they can't discriminate, you know, because they say, I don't discriminate them because they are women, but I treat them differently because we need men to secure the running of the hospitals, because women are often, you know, the
go to maternity or paternity, paternity is not so usual in Czech Republic still. So they say, yeah, it's because of the absence at work, because they take care of children. But yeah, it means that they are discriminated against because they are women.
I just have a question. How many days do men get for paternity leave in Czech Republic?
2 weeks.
2 months?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow. In Slovenia, you can share. And it's up almost to a year.
And it's parental leave. It's not paternal and parental leave.
But men have now 3, but then like they can, women can give their share to men, you know, so like they can exchange their parental leave actually.
Mm-hmm. That I think is an option here as well, but then we would just dwell on it.
2% of fathers take it.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
It's complicated. I mean, we have 2 weeks for fathers only, sorry, and then parents can decide who takes on the parental leave, which is up to 4 years, in fact.
Ah, okay, okay.
It's complicated, but 2% of fathers stay on the parental leave.
Okay.
The paternal leave, which is newly introduced, it's, I think, 60 to 70% of fathers take this.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how well are they paid during this time?
It's percentage of your salary. It is 59%, the same as sick leave, which is very little for a family.
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe let's just continue because this would be a long debate. But you wanted to comment?
I would like to comment that I believe that education can improve the situation, and it is one of possibility. But I'm not sure if strict period of education is the right way.
Yeah, I think the problem is that I would say with similar courses or trainings, it's similar to kids in school. If you cannot motivate the kids to learn something, then it doesn't make that much sense if you introduce compulsory whatever, reading, mathematics, writing. It always depends on your underlying motivation. So if we introduce these kinds of courses and the people themselves aren't at least open, they don't even have to be motivated, but at least like open to the idea, then I would be slightly skeptical that, well,
In our former research project we interviewed professors, what are their attitudes toward gender equality, what do they know about gender equality, what do they think about gender in general. And we had this very, very striking finding that in Germany it seems to be that gender equality is something like a norm you should aspire. It's not something, nobody would say it's okay to discriminate against women. Nobody would say it. It has become a sort of a desirable norm. But in these interviews we heard a but. Gender equality is good, but. And the but argument was we cannot destroy the DNA of the academia. And the DNA of the academia is that we need excellent researchers, we need innovation, we need good academic practice and excellence. And when you have gender equality and you have excellence, you cannot undermine this DNA of excellence in order to favor women. And this I think we need to tackle these issues. What is excellent? Is there always a fair perspective on these issues? How do we define a good work? How do we define a good physician?
Yeah, I would like to add to that this is a completely false dichotomy, and in fact we do have data that diverse teams publish in journals with higher impact factors, so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This idea that we have excellence versus versus gender equality, first of all, it's nonsense, and second of all, if even these two issues were opposed to each other or were in a relationship, then the relationship would in fact be positive, that gender equality and diversity promotes excellence, promotes excellent research, and this is what the data shows. So I'm always so struck, how is it possible that as scientists we listen to data, we pride ourselves with data, and then we listen to data and act based on data, and when we have data showing that diversity improves our work, improves our excellence, we completely ignore it.
And it's teamwork. Yeah, research is teamwork, and you cannot. And I think in Europe, or in Germany at least, you have this notion of the lonely wolf sitting in his chamber and having this wow idea, and then he writes down, and it's a genius. And it's not the reality, because it's teamwork, and it's good and excellent research. the preconditions is at the child rearing and the parents. They provide the first resources for this person. So it's a big teamwork starting in childhood. So we should say farewell to this idea of this single person who's a genius, because there's a big team who's checking the results and giving advice to a text and. Yeah.
I would just like to return to Eva's first comment, and that was how do we define excellence? Because if we define it in, well, we will hire young, ambitious, hard-working researchers for 3 years, we will totally suck their energy off and then throw them away, not caring about that. Is this excellence? I mean, it's a practice that we know, and we agree that this is problematic. So the definition of what excellence means is definitely something that is worth.
Thank you for this exciting exchange on excellence and on science. But there is this lovely question waiting in the row, and I really want you to comment on if you experience a discrimination in the workplace based on you being a woman, how would you like your male colleague to react? I let it sink.
I think, oops.
Close up, yeah.
I think I would like them to talk, to say exactly what the problem is, why they did it, and why this person is discriminated, and I would actually gather everybody in the lab and let them have their opinion about it.
I agree that communication about problem could be a solution, but the question is if such communication could be really open, and if everybody in the communication will be able to listen what other say, because when anybody has closed eyes for discrimination, he or she will not hear it, or will stay on his or her position. So but what is not reason, don't do it.
Martin, you want to?
I happen to be in that situation, either through activism or non-academia, when colleagues would come to me and say they experienced some kind of harassment. And I decided to speak about it. I addressed it in activist email group. Then now that happened to me as a researcher, I I talked to the person, I said, okay, I want to take this further, and I spoke with person in power, and then it trickled down upwards, and that issue was addressed. So I think, first of all, to listen to the person, to say, okay, I believe you, then try to find a solution how to address it. If there is chance, speak about it in team, or even go further if the problem is deeper. So yeah, and I, as somebody who appears to be male, I feel that it's my responsibility to step up for women who have been, in general for all those who have been discriminated, and to use my voice to amplify their platform.
Just one brief comment before I get into answer. I think this is extremely important because we talk about communication and about sort of resolving it between each other. But what you're saying is, well, in fact, if this is not enough, we have to go the way up. And someone in the position of power should speak out to the position of power and say this is important. And rules have to be changed and policies have to be implemented.
Maybe it's too simple, but I would like male colleagues to defend us, their women colleagues.
Yeah, I would like to just add that sometimes might be helpful that if we put the men to the opposite position as we are, so if we show them that they are in this position, in this specific position, and ask them how they feel, so maybe they realize more or better the way how they treat to us. So maybe like that.
Okay.
I would like to say that men maybe don't realize it, but they hold really like big power to help women, because if women are arguing that they are discriminated against, they are always, I don't know, people always say that they are just hysterical and they don't understand jokes and etc. But when men talks about discrimination against women, his word weighs more than the women's word. It's sad, but it's true. So I think that men are really in the position when, if they want, they really can help women not to be discriminated, because their word and their actions matter.
Maybe one final comment is that as women, maybe we shouldn't undermine each other's positions, because sometimes I have done it myself, maybe, saying, but he didn't mean it that way. He's otherwise a really nice guy, so, we all know he makes these stupid jokes, or we all know he's slightly overlooking your concerns, but, he doesn't mean it, or, I think that sometimes we are slightly guilty ourselves that this is one way how we might undermine our position and the position of our colleagues, but also more annoying approaches like, oh, how come that you are not staying with your baby for 2 years at home? These things. Okay, next question. What do you think about gender reveal traditions and how medical professionals play a role in this?
Again?
What do you think about gender reveal traditions and how medical professionals play a role in this? So I'm not sure if gender reveal traditions are that prominent in the Czech Republic.
Do you need gender reveal parties, parties at which babies,
you cut
sex as not gender is real? Is that meant?
Yeah, it's sex reveal technically.
Yeah.
But because they call it gender parties, then I use gender reveal. But I mean traditions as a whole, because.
Could you speak up?
Yeah, because I was thinking about gender reveal parties and where it could originate from, and then I figured that this starts at the moment where you reveal the gender the sex really of the baby in the medical appointment with your doctor, and they go like, there's big difference between saying, oh, it's a girl, than saying, oh, it's a female, because it's a female is what you're seeing as a medical doctor, but it's a girl is a gender is a social construct. So I was thinking of, what do you think of this dynamic and how then it translates into the social parties as gender-real parties?
Any sociologist on board?
Do you not think we have this tradition of the gender-real parties at all in the Czech Republic? Do you know that?
Yes.
In Germany,
not in Germany at all, but I have relatives in the United States. And actually, as soon as the baby is underway, the gender reveal party is planned. And after some time, when the gender is finally revealed, they do things like popping pink paper all over the yard of the couple or something like that. The other way around. I mean, I think this is very recent, and in my view, it doesn't play a big role. Like, it's just to have an opportunity for a party, I think.
I mean, where I come from, these parties are also not very, very popular, but there is a question that I think is almost universal. And it's got to do when a woman is pregnant, this question, is it a boy or is it a girl? And I think that question that is so simple is extremely fundamental, because then the trickle that then leads to a whole cascade of decisions, discussions, buildings, you know, like you decide, okay, if it's actually a male and it's supposed to be a boy, then we have to buy blue clothes, green clothes, you know, tractors, cars that came through in blue. So like, there's a whole industry behind that. And of course that was made possible after ultrasound technique was introduced into medicine. And that's what, because before that you hardly knew like the sex of a baby. And especially but coming from my field, which is intersex, that is a very interesting question, because ultrasound may show one thing, but then when the child is born, it appears that what appears on the ultrasound is not what you actually get. And also if you do, for example, karyotyping, then yeah, okay, it may have XY karyotype, but then the anatomy of baby does not correspond with that karyotype. So, well, now, you know, intersex people from the beginning represent the problem to these questions. And I think that for intersex people, this question, just like for transgender people, is very, very essential. It's like, what the F do you mean? Like, yeah, like this may be what appeared on the ultrasound photo, but this is not how I actually develop, or does not correspond with my biological entity or my social identity.
And there is the whole issue of confusing future grandparents, like how come that you don't want to know the sex of your child? Because some people opt out and say, well, we don't want to know. And the grandparents say, okay, well, exactly, what kind of toys are we supposed to buy? No, normal toys. Okay, how do you factor race into the discussion of women in medicine, like the extra prejudice against women of color in predominantly white settings?
I think it's a big issue we should consider simply at that. And that there are, and that we have to think of this problem in a very multidimensional way, and that people of color face very different obstacles, and that we have to keep in mind that as well, and also on the patient side when you concern the medicine. You work as a physician.
If I may, that's that's generally the question of diversity that Andrea has already opened by people coming from working class background, also face various difficulties sexually, we have already mentioned here. Language, I mean there's huge migration of the medical staff in hospitals, maybe outcoming from the Czech Republic, not as much incoming, or if they're from Slovakia, but the language barrier, which is not visible, not listenable on the first word. Yes, it's a big issue, and of course the fact that we concentrate on women in medicine in this seminar does not or should not mean ignoring other inequalities.
Absolutely. I also think that, well, definitely in Czech Republic, but I would say in a large part of Western Europe, we are living in this myth of meritocracy, that the one who made it to the top is the one who deserves it, because he's been working the hardest, whereas, or is the most intelligent by nature, essentialism. However, the fact is that people who are at the top are exactly from very well-educated background. They have parents who work in academia, and we often forget to notice that, you know, if we made it to the top and we are here distinguished professionals, it's oftentimes thanks to the fact that our parents took care of our education, etc. So that's also another thing to have in mind, that again, it's not just gender, it's not just race, but especially here I think the problem of the myth of meritocracy plays an important role. I'm keeping the question, how can a woman cope with sexist environment without losing hope to the end? Because I think we will need lots of hope as the final message. So even though it's the most popular, I'm not continuing with this one, but I'm leaving it towards the end. So Spain is debating a law which would allow an easy change of legal sex by intersex and trans persons. And I'm not sure if there's continuing to the question. Okay, so maybe if the person who asked this this law is very much combated. Is it the continuation of the question? The law is very much combated by a group of feminists who fear it leads to a deconstruction of womanhood and undermines feminist strives. What is your opinion? So that, again, I will try to read it all together. Spain is debating a law which would allow an easy change of legal sex by intersex and trans people. And at the same time, this law is very much combated by a group of feminists who fear it leads to a deconstruction of womanhood and undermines feminist strives. What is your opinion? I guess the question means that if a trans person wants to have their sex change, their gender changed in their IDs or their legal documents, they can do so, and without undergoing surgery, etc.
Or without medical certificate.
Without medical, yeah.
This is a complex issue, a complex question, and I think it is not feminists in general, or not only feminists, who may or may not welcome or fear these changes. It needs more debate, and of course we live in a society where there is no dual gender anymore. I mean, there's dual sex category. That's the agreement that you only need to put female or male into your birth certificate or IDs. In some countries there is an option, maybe for intersex, or I don't know if that is an option. But I really admit the society and atmosphere that we live in, or we don't. I'm not sure whether it's really feminists in Spain who are the most loud voice against the construction of dual gender regime.
I mean, this question of legal gender recognition actually comes from and is related to the distinction between sex and gender, and this is very much this comes actually from medicine, especially from the research on intersex and treatment of intersex people and of gender, because who developed the term gender identity, gender role was Dr. John Money, who was a psychologist working for Wilkins Endocrinologists in the US. And then the second wave feminist, through Robert Stoller, who was actually a psychotherapist, specialized in psychoanalysis, he adopted John Money's term gender identity and role in very much medicalized terms, and that this term was then adopted, that is reappropriated by the transgender community, just as the term gender was then adopted by feminists, because they said, okay, sex is something that belongs to biology, but since we are attacking and trying to change social institutions, we're going to deal with gender. So like this whole thing actually boils down to this distinction made in the medical field through medical treatment. And I find in a way funny that, but also tragic, that now we have so-called feminists who are trying to claim that, let's leave biology as it is, but like we cannot allow transgender people to destroy the category of womanhood, because we know what a real woman is, and like they are abiding by this very, very strict, but also very restrictive categories, I would say. And it's also striking that in Spain, these feminists are very close to certain right-wing politics, so then I ask myself, so how can you call yourself a feminist?
Thank you. So we'll continue with two questions set. In medical practice, unethical choices, such as reporting higher patient numbers or performing unnecessary surgery, can be beneficial for career progress. Therefore, are statistically higher ethical standards of women a problem for career advancement? So I guess if I understand this question correctly, it means that sometimes if you behave unethically in academia or medicine, it can sort of ease your career progress. However, when you are a woman, you tend to be the right one, the decent one, the polite one, the rules-obedient ones. So can this be another factor that impedes career advancement? Okay, I really don't want to force our speakers. I think it would be interesting to perform a study that would analyze whether the premise is correct. And there are two premises that we might in fact question. One is whether indeed an ethical conduct is beneficial for career progress, and in long term it may in fact not be the case. And second, if it's really the case that women have higher ethical standards, and then how do we define ethical standards in academia? I guess it would first need addressing these two premises. I like the question on what do you think about mandated maternity leave as an instrument of reducing the impact of childbearing on people's career? Mandated paternity leave, that means that fathers have to take time off to take care of the child.
I still didn't understand the question.
I'll try to start. I think we learned from practice from countries where they have already started it. I think it's not only Iceland, it's Norway as well, where they have this share for mothers, share for fathers, and share that they can decide on. As I understood in Slovenia, that's maybe the same case.
And it needs some, I mean, these policies have been introduced pretty recently, even in Scandinavian countries, so I guess we might need a bit more time, because the reason why these policies have already been implemented in these countries means that their level of consciousness regarding gender relations was already at a level that allowed these decisions to pass through Parliament, so it's always a complex of issues.
Well, in Slovenia, these changes were introduced actually in the socialist era, but that was because of the global politics that we as socialists have to be more advanced than the capitalist society. And there are so many actually. It's striking that these policies have survived, and they were extremely progressive, and they're to some extent still very progressive these days. And I've learned also that socialist countries actually came to, Yugoslavia and fellows and learned a lot of them and then implemented, not the same, but these strategies that were employed back in Yugoslavia.
Okay. I think we slightly touched this question in regards to trans and intersex people. Many successful gay and lesbian politicians are actually from right-wing and liberal conservative parties. Is there a conflict with feminist struggles? Okay, I give it back to Bella.
No, I wanted to just pass it.
The answer is yes, but the whole problem is, it's actually a very nicely framed question because it's gay and lesbian, but it's not then also bisexual, trans and inter people. And this is because gay and lesbians have been very vocal, and also when you think of like who is the most visible are usually white middle class gay lesbians, and then they had this privilege that helped them to fight for their rights against heterosexist society. And at some point, that was in the 90s, the question of your identity became, in certain gay and lesbian circles, especially white middle class, they said, okay, like we are now at the point that we are gaining our rights, so we no longer feel attached to the rest of the community, and like we feel that our personal life should belong, to the private life, and everything else, we do just like the straight people do. And also, in this case, it's very important that the question of market, because you have so-called homo conservatives, which is exactly what I'm talking about. So like they wanted this traditional family values, but they, at the same time, were also very much for very neoliberal economic policies, which then also came hand in hand with a lot of neo-right-wing policies through Reagan in the 80s. So then you have this strand of gay and lesbians that are, we are for free market, but because everything else that we do in private life has nothing to do with that. That is what through that you have then next generation of right-wing gay lesbian politicians that do not see associated with LG or even feminist struggles.
Okay, unless there's anyone, I think we have a very active part of the panel, and I would like to give voice to those less vocal ones by asking how to change gender stereotypes in society, or maybe in the area where you're working or where you're living, and I would like each of you to answer this question. And Shako, if I may ask you to begin.
I need some time to think about it. Maybe I can.
Yeah, well,
is it possible later?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's fine.
We maybe must start in ourselves and be careful when we use stereotypes, because we grow up in some situation and in some families and in some cultural and historical circumstances, and we can have stereotypes and we don't know about them. So I think that it is important to stay with open mind and listen and think. And for instance, for me, it is very helpful to be in contact with young physicians, with young doctors, as students, and it helped me to think about stereotypes and try to change my stereotypes.
For me is to be aware at all times that we are not perfect, and even though I have a lecture on some prejudice and stereotypes, I sometimes find myself to be prejudiced too. You know, I'm reading this book called Secret Barrister, and it's from Great Britain, and it's about some secret lawyer, and it's kind of cool, but I realized that I kind of assumed that the secret barrister is a man, you know, and then I realized it, and I was like, oh my God, I do that too, you know. I have lectures about some prejudice, and I'm also prejudiced, so we need to learn and we need to be open-minded and, you know, maybe educate those around us. As for example, our parents or grandparents, that it is normal when little girls want to play with car and little boys want to play with, you know, this baby, plastic baby or Barbie. You know, it's not that something's wrong with that, and I think that the older generations, such as our parents or grandparents, still kind of struggle with that, and, you know, maybe are not so open-minded, but we need to try to, you know, educate them and show them that it's not wrong.
In fact, my experience with my grandparents is that they are much more open-minded than my parents. Yes, so I would opt for giving more voice to cool grandparents. So hell yeah, grandmothers.
This is a hard question, and this is one of the reasons we are here. So many people like Eva works on these holiday lives, on these questions. So I think it's a discussion, permanent discussion, and to begin in our nearest background, exactly as you said.
You're right, in mind. I wanted to say that it's so important that we are here because it's in a team, but we provide support to, we are not alone in trying to do these things, and of course we are, most of us are already very self-critical and whatever, and we need to continue doing that, of course, but to empower the question and the people who deal with these issues. I'm so grateful that you've organized this.
I agree with the open communication, and it's the basic, and I think that there are also, that we can show them like different ways how maybe we think that's a good way, or that we like skip all the stereotypes. I wouldn't emphasize that this is the stereotypes, maybe at the first line, but if they don't understand, so maybe after that, yes, but maybe not at the beginning, because that feels in them that there's something wrong and they stop inside. So the second advice would be the open different ways, and also show them if this is what they don't like or we don't like, so just show them differently. And And that's it. My suggestion is just to stay angry and talk openly.
Yeah. I mean, I just can only judge from academic life, and things have become so normal. You have a lesbian vice chair, everybody knows she has children, nobody cares. And but it's academic life, and I think in other layers of the society it can be very different. But just be normal, I think, with everybody else, just that normal as you communicate with everybody else.
May I add, because I wanted to finish the last, even we fail, like the first time, I think it will sound here more later that we shouldn't find our hope. So just to try to do it again and again maybe, and it's also on us. So we will continue. I think change. If we stop, nothing will change. I think a big obstacle is, or a danger, to think too early that equality is just there. It's not, and I think that could be a problem, because then women get silenced quite quickly.
Maybe. Yeah, I will just one brief comment and then I will give over to you. I recently heard an idea, and it was from a man, and I'm not super sure if I agree with it, but it was interesting. As you said, that it has become normal in Germany. So maybe an idea would be, okay, stay angry and be aware that equality is not here, but maybe act as if it was. Maybe what we can do is act in our lives as if we were equal. Let's demand things. Let's demand things that we have our legal right to, and let's not think, oh, I'm doing something special, or
exactly.
I will be the weird one. No, I will not be. I mean, if I lived in a normal society, this is what I would act like. So maybe that could be a way of addressing stereotypes too.
Well, I would say for a start, stop asking, is it a boy or a girl? I think that's a very cool, very practical strategy, you know, just like, is it healthy? Like, are you happy about it? I mean, that would be a good strategy. And of course, you know, acting as if equality is already here, it's a good strategy, just like allowing people to develop and flourish as they want. You know, if you see that your girl is dressing up as a boy, and say, oh yeah, why not? Like, do that. Like, maybe you also dress up as a mother, as a man, like, to show to your daughter, okay, this is okay. Like, I support you. You know, this is.
For me, the starting point was to realize that I don't need to be a good girl and follow expectations, sometimes not really high expectations, based on the fact that I live with chronic illness. And just that I realized that I can go and direct my life my own way, and to be happy with that, and maybe stand for an example, and to be able, in order to be able to influence the thinking of other people. And as I already said, to be consistent and resistant, and also to be example of the fact that we all are different, and we can live autonomous life.
There is a question that regards an example from the United States. Amy Coney Barrett, who is a Supreme Court judge, who is appointed by Donald Trump, she voted yes in case of Roe v. Wade overruling. So Roe v. Wade is a precedent by the Supreme Court in the United States that made abortion or the rights to abortion a federal law. And it has recently been overruled, also thanks to Amy Coney Barrett. That means that in the United States, the rights to abortion is no more enforceable, and every state can decide if they will or will not allow abortion. So this is just for the context. And this was done despite the fact that 61% of Americans are in fact in favor of having access to abortion. So are these queen bees dangerous for our society and for other females? And how should we deal with discrimination when it comes from a woman towards another woman? And I think this is a fascinating question.
This is being a very teacher-like note, sorry for that. If you remember the presentation from tomorrow morning, to personalize these decisions, that kind of tokenism of that this particular judge who is part of a very gendered system and organization, and to take it as this is woman, so it means not all women are united as fueling argument in the debate, is highly problematic in fact. So I do not like the question because I think the justice system is very highly gendered as such, and that's more of a problem than the fact that one Republican or whatever judge is by accident a female.
Totally agree.
I think that the problem with Roe versus Wade is the overturn of these precedents is that judges decide about rights and not in just the meaning that they explain the law, but they are really, stating what the law should be or what it shouldn't be, and that's wrong. That should be made by legislators who are voted into offices by people, not by the president. So I think that that's the main problem here. Yes?
Like, if I may correct my question, the Roe versus Wade and Amy Coney Barrett, it was just like an example which I used to introduce the question. The main point was how to deal, for example, when, let's say, we have a company run by a woman CEO, and she would decide not to hire a woman because she sees it from a point, for example, she has no children and she is single, and she would say to that woman, no, I won't hire you. And the point would be, again, for example, she is thinking, not, for example, specifying that she will go and have kids or she will go and take care of them. She's less of, and that, for example, she's less than the man on that position. Like, how to deal with this when the discrimination comes from a woman, not from a man? Because I see it as more hard to deal with.
Yeah, I think that it's basically the same. If you're asking how to deal with it won't change if the discriminator is woman or man. It just feels somehow more wrong for women to discriminate women. But when you asking how to deal with it, it's the same approach. You have to defend yourself, you have to fight, you have to not to be silenced, intimidated, and just let them get away with it.
And with no sympathy for this decision being made, I think it is problematic to victimize those women who made it to the top and put more blame
on them for doing decisions that are typically masculine product of the society, how it works. So in fact, trying to understand why she behaves in this masculine framework the way she does is, well, one way to understand that. My suggestion.
So I really like the question about female mentor. If you had a mentor, and what was your experience? Sorry, I will scroll down to that. Oh yeah, did you or do you have a female mentor?
No.
Well, easy answer, unfortunately not, and it's a little bit of shame, but that's why probably we are here with the other task that we are here. So we try to start something like female mentors, at least in our area, and of course it needs some time, so hopefully in a few years there will be some.
Yes, I totally agree with what you just said. I had male mentors, which were good at mentoring, and I personally mentor young women, and I think it's just a matter of the generation that will come.
I don't know how to define mentor, but I had a lot of role models, and I always felt very comfortable in feminine contexts, and I found it always very empowering to work with other women, and I consider them as role models, and yes, I'm very grateful.
I had only men mentors. One woman was very bad. so there was no mentoring. She liked guys more. And then, but I did mentoring to my younger colleagues, and I think it was quite a satisfaction for both of us.
For both sides.
Martin, how about your female mentors?
I had all of my mentors are women or were women, and I think you said that you feel very at ease, as I do in women's settings, and also just from socialization, but also to education, all of the mentors that helped me, that I learned was were actually women, and everything that I learned from women actually, and I'm very happy about that.
I had both men and women mentors, woman mentor, and I stand for a mentor to women.
I didn't have women as a mentor, but I met some women during my professional life, and I can take them as a model for behavior.
Okay, so given the time, I think there's time to come to the most popular question, that is, how can a woman in medicine, in academia, or in our respective fields cope with the sexist environment without losing hope and burning out? And again, I would like to ask each and every one of our panelists if you can give us some tips and tricks on not losing hope and not burning out.
Yes. I think we must not take it so very seriously. Just to be to have some fun also.
Can we start on the other side?
Interesting question. I think actually, as you said before, that we should relax in some way, not in our actions, but mentally, and that it's just a matter of time. I think women are conquering medicine, and they will stay there, and they will do their jobs, and I don't think that this sexistic atmosphere will last very long anymore.
I would not take progress for granted, so my advice is to stay angry, but also relaxed. But the advice would be, don't take it personally, look at the system, and my advice is fix the system and empower the people, the persons, empower the women, but fix the system and bake a new cake.
And eat it too.
I think that a lot of helps and advice were already said, but I would like to emphasize one thing, that don't forget your work, I mean your main work. So not to emphasize precisely on this topic, but consistently working on and changing as much as you can if you believe in this. And I think that this is a great opportunity that we can discuss. This is a big change, I have to say. And I think that men will hopefully change their mind a little bit, because it's a big habit of them, so it means something.
Doing feminism and gender studies for almost 30 years. I went through phases of burnout, and I think it's just necessary to admit that sometimes you need help and ask for it, and find allies. This is a teamwork. You cannot do it alone.
Apart from everything being said that I completely was corrected, I would say be grateful and appreciate and enjoy and find the place where you feel good, and appreciate your colleagues, be it male or females. Be grateful to them when they act in a way that you appreciate and that you feel is being gender sensitive, is being good. So appreciate and be grateful for all good things that you see around yourself. And when you feel that there is nothing to be grateful for, then just go somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with finding allies, because for me it would really help me to find like-minded people and, you know, join them and try to think of ways how we can fight it. Because, you know, it's kind of satisfaction when you can, you know, discuss these things, when you don't have to keep it to yourself, and when you see that there are some things you can do as an individual or as a group. So I think it really helps to not lose hope and not burning out.
I think that it is adult duty to take care about ourselves. And I remember one Czech psychiatrist said that a doctor who allowed to burn out is not a good doctor. And it should be in different parts of professional life, different, but not allowed to play games and take care about herself or himself.
I just wanted to say to play games and to try to get surrounded by people who are open, and to be open to new things and new ideas.
Find your community, find your people.
So with that, I would like to thank our wonderful, distinguished panelists for this debate. It was an immense pleasure to have you all here. Thank you very much for being such a perceptive and such an exciting audience. Thank you for your question. I'm really sorry that we didn't have time to get to all of them, but really thank you very much. And now I will give floor to Dr. Julian Merz, who will conclude our session and who will invite you to more exciting topics and things to come. So thank you very much. Thank you all.